Hello and welcome back to another episode of the White Sox March to October. And today we're in the transitional period between season 1 and season 2. It's the off season. We spent over 45 minutes in the last episode looking over all of our players individually, so now we all are familiar with how they did, and we can keep all that in mind when making the decisions going into next season. And much like I kind of get carried away looking at stats, I also kind of get carried away by the off season. But I'm going to try and hold myself in check today because I do plan on getting the entire offseason in just this one episode. And that kind of just comes down to what my plan is for the offseason. I always like going into the offseason with a plan in mind, with a strategy of who I'm looking for. And I want to at least briefly talk about that before we advance to the offseason. So we're just going to again hop into that franchise save file that we created last episode to look over our stats again, just because we get more options to look at in the menu. But honestly, I plan on this offseason being a relatively quiet one. Really, the only screen I feel like I need to take you guys through is this screen right here. Just our team depth chart still from the year 2024, so the year that just passed. But this, at least to me, is probably the best way to just get a glimpse as a whole of what contracts are going to be up heading into next season. And as you can see here, we're really bringing back almost all of our team. We only have 4 expiring contracts, and none of them are really like centerpieces to this team's core. But these 4, I mean, you're already staring at it. It's Paul DeJong, it's Mike Soroka, and then it's 2 arms in the bullpen, Sean Armstrong and John Brebbia. Other than that, everybody else is on the books. Everybody else is coming back. But it's going to be next season's off season that's going to be the big one. We lose Dylan Cease, we lose Kopech, we lose Vlad, we lose Moncada, and we lose Mitch Garver behind the plate. So that's a lot of bigger pieces to this team that we're going to need to either pay them or fill those holes next season. So that's why I kind of want to keep this offseason a little bit quiet, just because I don't want to go out and do too much this offseason and not leave us enough money left over for next offseason to bring back some of the guys we'd want to be able to bring back. So anyway, my a bit more concrete plan is to handle the vacancy that Paul DeJong's going to leave. I just want Colson Montgomery to get called up. I want him to be starting at shortstop for the 2025 White Sox at a 76 overall. He's ready. He's more than ready. The only thing is this is still March to October. We still have to rely on the CPU to set our rosters, and I'm not fully confident the CPU is going to have the awareness to not only bring Colson Montgomery up, but they also have to add him to the 40-man. And I don't know, if you guys were watching during the regular season, you saw my frustrations with the CPU just not understanding what I wanted to do in different situations when there was a call-up in question. I've had it in the past where I have a certain plan for a position. I go through the offseason with that plan in place, and then the CPU just like will randomly sign some veteran to a 1-year deal, and that'll be how they keep the player I planned on having off the roster. But I'm still going to treat this offseason like Montgomery is going to be our starting shortstop next year. Now, our other vacancies are the 1 starting pitcher spot and then 2 spots in the bullpen, and we have a lot of flexibility for this. I'm hoping one of those vacancies will be filled by Joe Barlow coming up. I also would prefer Flexen and Fetty to not be on the big league squad at all. So if all that's the case, that would leave us with then 4 pitching spots total that I would like to fill in the offseason. And I don't exactly know how I want to do it yet, because we are flexible. Like right now, Tyler Wells is in our starting rotation. He can move to the bullpen. I also could see moving Kopech to the pen with his lower stamina. Schuster can move from the pen into the rotation. So yeah, it's really just going to kind of come down to who is available, who catches my eye for what I want to bring in. But really the only thing that I'll be looking at heading into this offseason to sign is pitching. Now, can that change? Of course. If there's some position players that just entice me too much, make too much sense, we could put in some offers for them too. But just my primary focus right now is on our pitching. So I clicked it. We're heading into the offseason. They're going to explain everything to me. I think I already know what's going on. Okay, so yeah, it seems like everything works the same. I just breezed through that tutorial. It looks like we have $84 million of budget for this offseason. Again, I don't know if I want to just like go right up to that, because we need to keep in mind next season we're going to have a lot of spots to fill then. But I will say, unfortunately, even though I didn't assume anything would have changed, I feel like I would have heard of it. But now I know for sure that there's no exclusive exclusive negotiation period. We're just negotiating with all free agents at once. So, I mean, I can't lie. Right away, this number one free agent here is probably the most enticing of them all. It's Juan Soto at 26 years old, a 92 overall, an A potential. And I don't know, maybe this isn't the right way to look at it, but what kind of keeps me from wanting to do this is I don't just want to make all the same moves that I made last year in the Nationals March to October, and that's what I did between, on that game, it would have been years 2 and 3, is I brought in Juan Soto. But at the same time, I guess with how much he's asking, it also kind of makes sense to not sign him because of that as well. Mike Soroka is actually ranked number 6 among all free agents. I was not expecting that. He's going to be asking for $14.6 million a year. And I don't know. I don't know. We kind of talked about it a few times over the last couple episodes. I don't really know what I want to do with Soroka. Like, on one hand, he was really good. I like his pitch mix, and he still has a lot of room to improve at a relatively young B potential. What I don't like is his stamina being below a 70, his clutch rating being slightly low, and even that hits per 9 compared to the rest of his attributes is also a little low. I don't know though, when it comes to starting pitchers, there's not a whole lot of really good options. I mean, Shane Bieber is solid, Max Fried's solid, Corbin Burns is really good. Actually, Corbin Burns is even better than I thought. He's got really high stamina, really high hits per 9. He's probably not going to get any better, but he is only 30, and if we sign him to 5 or 6 years, he should be at least staying in the 80s for, I would say, the majority, if not all of that contract. He's only asking for $1 million more a year than Soroka, and he's already at that potential. Like, we won't be needing to wait for Soroka to become an 80 whatever overall, because Burns is already there. We know what he's going to be. And then when it comes to the relief pitchers, our guys at least that became free agents, they're actually both asking for the same thing. Armstrong's asking for 4 years, 3.1 mil, and John Brebbia, exact same deal. All right, well, it is interesting to see how they've aligned my depth chart to look here to refer back to during the offseason. I can't adjust this at all. This is just purely to look at, and they have Max Stassi at short, so don't really know what to make of that. But they also have automatically moved Schuster into the rotation, Wells to the bullpen, and then they have Chris Flexen right now as our 5th starter, which I guess also that could be an option, is plan on Schuster to start, plan on Wells to be a starter again, and then only focus on the bullpen. Because I mean, we're talking then an entire starting rotation that's a 76 overall or above, and Schuster is going to keep getting better. So is Kopech too. And I don't know, it might make economical sense too, because for the most part, the relief pitchers are asking for a lot less. But just here's what I'm thinking right now. If we do just anticipate having Tyler Wells being in our starting rotation, and then these 4 plus him being our starting 5, and then I primarily target Tanner Scott and Clay Holmes, probably the top 2 relief pitchers out there right now, and then also hopefully assuming Joe Barlow would get called up, that then should leave us with a full bullpen, right? Because that'd be the 5 arms we have now plus the 2 we'd sign, Barlow. That's 8 spots filled. Obviously, I'd like to find out a way to not have Flexen or Fetty, and that's another thing that's completely left up to the CPU. If I sign one more dude, either what would happen is they just get rid of the lowest overall, which is Tukey, which I don't want to happen, or they would recognize that Tukey's a reliever, and they'd get rid of our slightly higher rated, but not quite good enough for the rotation starting pitchers. So honestly, what I'm feeling right now is just, well, let's just visualize it here. Throwing Tanner Scott, Clay Holmes, and Jose Leclerc, the top 3 relief pitcher options on the market right now, throwing all them on our targeting list and trying to bring them all in. I mean, could you imagine? If we did this, it would work within our budget. It would transform the bullpen. It would keep intact the position player group that clearly worked last year. And it should leave plenty of money left over after next season to bring back a Vlad, a Dylan Cease, whoever we want to make sure we bring back. My only holdup is still whether or not I want to go after a starter. And if I do, is it Soroka? But I could definitely see, even if I do decide to do that, I could definitely see taking care of this first. And then if afterwards it makes sense to go for a starter, then we have that flexibility of moving Tyler Wells back to the bullpen. I guess I also shouldn't assume, the more I think about it, that the CPU knows what I want to do and would have Tyler Wells as a starting pitcher. They definitely could load me in with a starting rotation that includes Chris Flexen and then has Wells in the bullpen. So I don't know, man. I will admit, as much as I enjoy March to October, it's very frustrating trying to mold what I want to do around what I try to anticipate what the CPU is going to do. Okay, so I think I'm ready to advance past this first week here. I've got the positional and team needs set up to get what I think is as much interest as possible across these 3 players. So we're going to advance. We're going to see how interested they are, and we're going to hope that they don't give me one of those like last chance things and, you know, force me to sign one of these guys early or potentially lose out on one of them. So moving on here, whatever advance to calendar means. Okay, I forgot. It's been a while since I've done an off season in March to October. So I forgot. We head into the calendar and then we can go day by day here. And well, right away, there it is. A last chance opportunity to try and sign Clay Holmes, and it doesn't look good. He was only 34% interested. We have to offer him a contract now because he's about to make his final decision, or I guess we could let him go. I think we may as well offer him something. Just out of curiosity, if we bump everything up to the max, that only pretty much puts us at a 50-50 shot at getting him. So I think going back to the middle here, I think I'm just going to offer him a deal I'd feel comfortable giving him and not try and play into that interest thing. So I'd prefer to knock down the years. So this would give him us for his 32, 33, 34, and 35-year-old seasons, which I think that's a good spot to limit it. I could see even bumping it down to 3. Yeah, you know what? Come to think of it, I don't know if I'd want him on the books past 3 years. So we'll offer him 3. I'd be fine bumping the salary up a little bit. So yeah, let's just bump it up to an even 33 and a third chance of winning. And the rest of the league has a 66 and 2/3 chance of winning, but Kurt Angle knows he can't sign him and he's not even going to try. And let's just see. I mean, we don't have a good chance. We'd have to get lucky. Oh, we actually got him. It worked out. All right. It hasn't always worked out for me in the past. I've lost out on players who've had a lot higher percentage chance of signing. So that definitely was very lucky. That's a huge addition here. And we still have the other 2 on the board, but securing one of them, securing a big 87 overall arm, that's a good start. All right. So continuing on. Okay. That was not who I was expecting to see being the first signing from around the league. But okay, we move on. Man, where are the big signings? What is happening here? We're almost to our next week here, and it looks like we made it through without these other 2 dudes signing elsewhere. They aren't as interested as I would have hoped, though. 46% for Scott, 43% for Leclerc. Another thing I'm thinking about the potential of to sign is I think we could probably use a backup outfielder, because I remember last year we had a point where Gavin Sheets was our only backup outfielder, and the game was just not smart enough when Luis Robert needed a day off to move things around and put Gavin Sheets in a corner spot, because it would just put Sheets in center. So the guy I'm kind of looking at for that would be Garrett Hampson. I actually think this would be a really nice signing. He can play everywhere in the infield and the outfield, really. He can play the positions well, and honestly, he's not bad at the plate. Like, he's got solid contact. He can even drop down a bunt if we need him to with that bunt rating and speed. I just don't know if I want to throw him on yet, because if I do that, you know, it affects our interest for these 2 guys. But actually, the more and more I look at this, the more and more I do kind of like the thought of this move, because he had a pretty solid season last year, kind of had some decent power out of nowhere. So I think I'm gonna add Hampson on here, at least just gauge where he's at interest wise, and then I probably should swap Scott and Leclerc just so Leclerc gets the plus 7%. That would get him up to that 50, because we can't offer him a contract until they're at 50% interested. Even though I am still top priority between the 2 is probably Tanner Scott. And where are the big signings, man? Okay, there's one. And that's one that I would potentially have thought of targeting, so I'm almost glad he got picked up before I got back around to it. Not because I'm glad we missed out on him, but just glad that I won't have to think about that. And then there's more. It's Blake Snell signing. Did he not pitch it? Oh, yeah, you know what? He wouldn't have, because he was still unsigned when we started this March to October, and then we kind of discovered during the course of the March to October that other teams don't tend to make moves during the season. So he was just stuck not playing last year. That's a shame. And then Pete Alonso signs with the Jays. I guess that's their Vlad replacement. And just like that, we're on to our next week. Garrett Hampson is pretty interested. By default, he's at 55%. And I don't know if I mind offering him that full 5 years when I do, because that would take him through his age 34 season. And even if he stays at a low 70 overall, I mean, he could just be kind of our utility plug and play whenever anybody needs a rest day kind of guy for however long. Now, I've still never gone through a March to October off season and checked how it works when I offer somebody a contract and they don't accept it. Like if I were to offer to Tanner Scott right now, he turns it down. Is that basically like when it's a last chance option and they sign with a different team? Like, did I just force his hand to go somewhere else? Or could I try with this 52%? He doesn't accept, and then he doesn't accept, but he still stays in the pool because he doesn't automatically sign somewhere else. I'm a little scared to just try that, but I also would like to, you know, sign him, get him off the board, and move on if we could. I think I'm going to try it with Leclerc. He was kind of the third of the 3 original relief pitchers I added. I wouldn't be torn apart if we don't get him. But I kind of want to sign some of these guys as quick as I can so I don't miss out on other things if there's other things I want to do. So I think I'm going to offer him this deal, bump those years down to 3, offset it, bring it back to the 50% interest by upping the salary a bit. So I don't know. I don't know what's about to happen here. So let's see. 50-50 shot at Jose Leclerc, and I don't know. Does this mean we have him, or does this... Okay, so yeah. Well, now we know. So offering them a contract, regardless of when you're doing it, forces their hand to make a decision, and we just forced Jose Leclerc to make his decision, and he decided elsewhere. That's a shame. I was kind of hoping at least how it would work would be like, he's declined to sign with you, but you can still continue trying to build up his interest. But I guess that's just not how it goes. Fortunately, we have the perfect replacement at a fraction of a price, Johnny Lasagna here. I know he's like 10 overall lower, and he's a C potential, so he's not going to get better, but this dude, I mean, we've had him before in White Sox March to October has gone by. He had a great year last year, only in 20 innings, but a 174 ERA. Little disappointed that he walked 9 hitters in those 20 innings when his walks per 9 rating at least was a 99. But yeah, great pitch mix. He's young. That overall should be staying put. And like I said, he's a fraction of the price. If we get him for what he's asking, that's $5 million less a year than I just offered Leclerc. I'm also now thinking of the possibility of signing a starter, but instead of signing a bigger arm to a bigger contract like a Soroka to bring back, I'm kind of thinking bringing in a lower arm on a shorter deal. Maybe like a Kyle Hendricks, or just any of these arms that would be at the bottom of our rotation next year. But it'd be kind of for 2 reasons. One would just be to make sure we don't have Chris Flexen in our starting rotation, but the other would be going into next season and, you know, losing out on Cease and Kopech, or at least not knowing what they're going to be next year. I feel like we're kind of in an in-between period with our pitching. We have Eater and Schuster as the 2 young arms, but then past that point, our crop of younger arms coming up through the system, I don't know if they're going to be ready to go. We have our 2 new draft picks here, and like Jeremy Bench is already a 70. He'll probably progress nicely throughout the year, but his ratings aren't quite where I'd want him to be. And then you got Grant Taylor also coming up through, but he's still got a while to go. So if we sign somebody like a Hendricks and we sign him to 2 years, they could be kind of that bridge until we get one of these young arms ready to go, while also making sure that Chris Flexen is not a member of our starting rotation. But I think I'm still going to advance this week with these 3 on our list. So we'll go ahead, we'll continue here, and we'll see what we've got as we move forward. There's the Leclerc signing made official. Soto signs with the Jays, so he's taken off the board. Only a 5-year deal, and that's not even all that much money. I don't know, the Jays got a good price there. Who else went? Jeff Hoffman, there's another relief pitcher option. Wasn't too interested in him. Phil Maton could have been a decent option, so he's off the board now. And then we are heading into our next week here, ready to go. Ooh, and Johnny Lasagna was very interested already. 65% after putting him on the board for the first time here. I'm a little like worried to put in an offer without like being sure that they're going to sign after what happened with Leclerc. But, you know, after that idea I was just talking about with the starting pitcher, I kind of want to get one of these guys off of here so I can add somebody who I might be interested in. So another thing we have in our back pocket here is once you get to a 55% interest, you unlock this guaranteed accept of your offer type thing. So this guarantees that they sign with you 100%, but it goes above and beyond on the offer. Like it offers them the maximum amount of years and more money than you could offer them otherwise. And now I think about it, I just don't know if I'd even want to use this if the situation arises, because like the guy I'm most interested in right now is Tanner Scott. Even for what he is, I don't know if I'd want to lock him down for 7 years, or maybe since he's only asking for 3 in the first place, okay, it would only be 5, but that's the Benintendi contract right there for a relief pitcher who in March to October, relief pitchers get used even less, so it's probably what, 30 to 40 innings a season. I do think though that I'm going to offer to Johnny Lasagna, and I think I'm just going to bump the money all the way up because that's only $260,000 to get the interest up a lot. Like, that's what, plus 13%. I'm also fine offering him 5 years. He's only 30. That would take him through his age 34 season. And again, it's not a lot of money. Like, even if his last 2 seasons ended up being in the minor leagues, it's kind of like whatever. So it is only 78%. It's not a guarantee, but I think I'm going to go ahead and make this offer to free up a spot. Hopefully we get him here. And we did get him. All right, we didn't strike out on back-to-back righty offers there. So man, I also didn't even realize it. We just kind of poached 2 arms from the Yankees bullpen, getting Clay Holmes and then Johnny Lasagna. I mean, hey, I guess they did make it to the ALCS against us, so something must have been working. See, I just wish you could adjust the offer a little bit more because I'm a little worried about Hendricks being 35. I'm worried about him just plummeting fast and regressing right away, even though he didn't really regress last season, and it's not like he played amazingly well to stave off the regression. But I don't know, if I could just make the same 2-year offer for Jordan Montgomery being a few years younger, I would much rather do that. Actually, maybe I wouldn't, because he actually was regressing. Or you know what, he wasn't regressing, he only seemed to be regressing because he was another guy who wasn't signed by the time we started this March to October. So a full season of not playing, that's what it'll do to you. It'll knock down your attributes a bit, which I guess makes him more affordable. I mean, we're not going to be able to see the offer anyway, even if I add him right now, but oh no, we can. Okay, we just can't make the offer? Or you can? Wait, I'm confused. Did I just never know this? Have I been playing off seasons in March to October without knowing this? I always thought you had to like have him on this screen for a week and then make the offer, but I can just offer to him right now and I know he's 56% interested and I could try and reel him in right away. I don't know. But if I were to make him an offer, I'd probably want to bump the years down to 3. And I don't know, would it kind of defeat the purpose if I compensated by bumping the money up a bit? I mean, that's not a ton of money that we're adding if we did bump it up to get the interest back to 55. Well, I guess now that I know you can do that, I'm curious then to see what Soroka is. So if I put Soroka on here, okay, I can't offer him a contract. So maybe the only reason I was able to do that is that by default, Montgomery was over 50% interested in signing. And then we kind of just gamed the system. I don't know. But I guess this means Soroka is at least under 50% interested in re-signing. He's also a lot more money than Montgomery would be. So the Montgomery move, even if he's a couple years older, would probably make more sense. I mean, right now, Montgomery is a higher overall. That would probably only last like 1 more season with how much Soroka progressed. I don't know, though. I'm really starting to like this Montgomery idea. He won't cost as much as Hendricks would in the short term. He's also slightly better. There's probably a bit more of a guarantee he doesn't regress because, you know, he's actually going to be playing. He's a little younger. He's got a good pitch mix, good stamina, good walks per 9. I think that's the one I'm going to go after. I think I'm going to go after a starter, and it's going to be Jordan Montgomery. I'm not going to go ahead and offer to him right now, though. We're just going to put him on our board for this week, and we'll go ahead. We'll move on another week here, see what goes down. Walker Buehler signs with the Braves, Gary Sanchez to the Padres, and then Jack Flaherty. That was another one I considered, and now we are back to our board. Another week of gaining interest. I actually just realized I forgot to reset this stuff to get more interest, so that probably cost us 1% or 2. So just real quick, doing the math, if I signed these 3 players for what they're asking, we'd still have $51 million left over in our budget, which that is more than enough to feel safe about doing with whatever I want to do with it going into next year. So like, I know I'm talking about bringing back Cease, bringing back Vlad, but we got to also remember what they're being paid for this upcoming year is going to come off the books. So even if it took $30 million to sign Vlad, that's only $8 million more. Cease, okay, it'd probably take a little bit more than 9.2 mil, but still, that's, you know, it offsets a bit. I think I'm just going to go ahead and go another week here of leaving these guys on our board. I could see after signing one of them, maybe looking at one more relief pitcher, but I'm still hoping Joe Barlow gets called up, but we still need to knock, hopefully, Flexen and Fetty out of our bullpen, and I think we need Barlow and one more to do that. And oh, the draft lottery is happening right now. I don't think that really does anything for us. Yeah, we're just set where we are in the 30th spot. All right, so the Tigers get the top pick. We also lose out on another potential relief pitcher option. I don't know if I would have brought Caleb Ferguson in, but he was at least on my radar, and that was the only one of that. Oh, and look at this. Kenley is coming to us. He doesn't want to give it up yet. He doesn't want to hang up the cleats at 37 years old. The regression is definitely hitting him, though. He had a 4.30 ERA last season. He's asking for 2 years, $3 million. I can easily knock that down to 1 year. We can only knock the money down to 2.7. I mean, I was saying we might need one more relief pitcher after dealing with the 3 on our board, and this would be that one more. I just don't know how quickly he's gonna plummet. I don't know. It seems like a bit of a risk compared to some of the other options I could seek out. I'm gonna say I'm not interested in Kenley. It's too bad. He'd fit right in with a lot of the historical White Sox moves, bringing in big names way past their prime. Well, I don't know, man. I feel like we're kind of stuck here until I decide to pull the trigger on one of these dudes, which I could just try on Hampson, because it's not like imperative that we get him. I'm also a little worried, since he's a primary shortstop, that he'd block Colson Montgomery getting called up. All right, but you know what? I am going to offer to Hampson, because there was a name of one more relief pitcher that was on my mind, and I kind of want to free up a spot to start looking at him. You know, I think this is what I'm going to do. I think I'm fine offering him the max amount of money, but I do think I can knock the year down by 1, because if of those 5 years there's any year he would be ineffective, it would be that last year. And I'm fine paying him 4.4 mil. So we'll get him up to 77% interested with this offer then. And we're going to go ahead and let it fly. Do we land Garrett Hampson? We do. I like that move. I really do. So then that opens up the one reliever I was looking at was Jorge Lopez. He is not asking for much money at all. Barely $2 million a year. He's a 77 overall. 32 years old. He had a nice season last year in the only 18 innings he pitched, but he's got a great pitch mix. He's got 99 velocity. The per-nines are solid across the boards, and I would be, well, he's okay. We can already see his interest is pretty high. I will be knocking this down to 3 years. But past this point, there's really no other holes that I feel the need to fill. So yeah, I'm pretty content just riding this out, gaining interest until we have to make a move, or we can get them 100%. So yeah, we're pretty much just going to be advancing here until something is done. So we might be in the final stages here of the offseason, and I accidentally just skipped past a day where a bunch of people were signed. So I wish I would have seen that. Oh, and right away, okay, well, we have to make a decision now then. Man, it's a good thing then that I did go ahead and offer to Garrett Hampson, because one more week waiting and Lopez wouldn't have been there. He might not be here anyway. So like I said, I'm definitely knocking it down to 3 years. How much do I want to bump the money up though? We can get him to a nice even 70%. That's not a ton extra we'd be paying him for that. So 77% interested for a 3-year deal for Jorge Lopez, and we did not get him. He goes back to the Twins. So I think on that day that I accidentally skipped past is when Mike Soroka signed. He signs with the Rockies on only a 1-year deal. I'm a little bit shocked by that. I would have thought that with his young age and the year that he had last year, he would have earned himself more than a 1-year prove-it deal. So I guess then that just means we can always go back and reevaluate next offseason. He should be available again, and we'll actually be looking for starting pitching, potentially, if we don't bring back Cease or Kopech or one of the two. So I don't know. I mean, I was looking through. There's not really any other options as good as Lopez. Like, the only other one I was potentially thinking about is Barlow, Scott Barlow. Same age, 1 less overall, still $1 million more dollars, but also I don't know about his pitch mix. Slider, slurve, and four-seam. I mean, how do you pitch to a lefty with that? Maybe I'd be more interested in Miguel Castro. Also only a 3-pitch guy, but he's got a really high hits per 9. He's way younger. He actually progressed last year, and he had a .79 ERA, and he's basically the same offer it would have taken to get Jorge Lopez. He is, you know, a lower overall, but he's also younger. We don't know what his underlying potential is. If that underlying potential is higher than a 72, he could get a little bit better. at 30 years old. That's still probably a possibility. He is 65% interested, so we'll see what happens this week. We'll see if, you know, he pops up as a last chance offer like Lopez did. And, well, yep, there it is. I'm not as confident in how effective he'll be, so I think I'm still going to knock it down to 3 years, even though he's younger, and I'm also just going to keep the money the same. So we'll just see what that 59% interest will do for us, and it gets him. It brings him in. All right, so there's that one other bullpen arm. We still got to make sure we get Tanner Scott. We still have Montgomery on the list. We don't need Matt Barnes. And now these dudes should get interest faster since they're going to be the only two on my board. I think I'm going to swap them around, actually, just since Scott's a little further along. But we do know now that I could get Tanner Scott to 100% if I wanted to. I mean, him only being 30, I definitely could bump up the years. I'd probably do 4. So with 4 years, it would take us bumping the money up to 12.8 mil, so an extra $840,000 to make sure that's 100%. I mean, there's no reason to do it now. If he might sign elsewhere, we'd get the last chance thing popping up, and then we could just make that offer. But also, we could bring that offer down even more if we wait another week, so that's exactly what we're gonna do. And Teoscar signs with the Mets. I feel like the Mets have made a couple moves. Oh, and here, okay, this is the one I was hoping we wouldn't have our last chance opportunity pop up for if it was between him and Scott, because we can't get Montgomery for sure right now, and I wanted to bump his years down to 3. Like that, this was kind of what I had to do for Montgomery, was bump his years down to 3. That was the only reason it made sense for what I'd be bringing him in to do. So we have to do that. The question is, do I want to pay him more to make up for it? If we pay him the max, the interest goes up to 81. If we want to make it like an even, well, I guess it'd be 71, not an even 70. We can bump him up to just over 6. I wouldn't be opposed to $6 million a year for 3 years. You'd have to imagine being 32, 33, and 34 during those seasons at an 80 overall. He'd at least stay around an 80, and I guess that's just hoping that he doesn't continue regressing and that this regression was only because he was unsigned for all of last year. And I guess if we're fortunate, maybe he'd even progress back a couple overall points. So I think this is the deal we're going to offer him. It's far from guaranteed, only 71% chance of getting it. So let's see if that can land us Montgomery, and it does. So we only have one move left to make, and then we've made just about all the moves we can do. Maybe not all the ideal moves, with missing out on a couple players I was originally targeting, but definitely a good offseason if we just make sure we lock up Tanner Scott, and I might just do that. I mean, by default, he's at 99% interested. I doubt you could go over 100. Like, I feel like once he's at 100, he's just at 100, and it wouldn't, like, build us up credit so that we could, you know, knock him all the way down and still be at 100. But if I want him for 4 years anyway, which I think I do, that puts him at 100. I can even knock the money down, what, like 1 peg, and he's still 100. I might just go ahead and take care of this. I might just go ahead and take him off the board, and we have nothing left to worry about. So let's just do it. Let's just bring in Tanner Scott. 92 overall, lefty arm in our bullpen. We have upgraded our bullpen so much. And Garrett Crochet, I'm still planning on keeping him as the closer. I mean, just look at what our bullpen has become now. Adding Tanner Scott, Clay Holmes, and then Johnny Lasagna and Miguel Castro as some middle options. Hopefully Joe Barlow comes up. He's a 73 overall. But yeah, I'm content. I don't think we need to do anything more. I don't know if I've ever gotten everything I've wanted to do out of the way before the very end of an offseason in March to October. I'm not going to skip the rest of the offseason just in case, I guess, but we're pretty much done here. Oh, don't tempt me like this. Man, he even got better last year. But this dude is like somewhat of a March to October legend. It might have been, at this point, was it all the way back in MLB 21? I think it was, but we had him in multiple March to Octobers that season, and for some reason against the CPU, he just was amazing. Yeah, I just don't think we need to do it, as tempting as it is. So let's keep going. Move on another week. Couple more signings taking place. I still think there's a couple big guys out there, and this was one of them. Glaber goes to the D-backs. So, man, the Yankees are kind of getting gutted. We took 2 of their main bullpen arms. Now Glaber's gone. Juan Soto left. Dodgers signed Drury. He's actually kind of a higher overall than I would have thought at an 83. Barnes also goes to the D-backs. Chafin signs with the Cardinals. And we have another bullpen arm asking to get signed, but we've already signed so many good bullpen arms. We don't need Hector Neris. I already looked at him before. decided I didn't want him. All right, moving forward. Another week, another reliever gets signed, a couple more signings. Has Shane Bieber gotten signed yet? I don't think he has. We don't need... Man, we're getting relief pitchers coming to us now. You're too late. Okay, no, Shane Bieber did sign. I just missed it. Max Fried is still out there, though. Okay, I missed it from a while back, actually, but Bieber signed with the Cardinals for only $19 million over 3 seasons. Some very cheap and short contracts have been dished out compared to what I would have thought some people would have gotten. This might be our last week of simming through here. Did Santander even pop up for me? That's another thing about these March to October off seasons. The only free agents you see are the top 100. And I don't even know if I saw Santander. I can't imagine he wouldn't be considered top 100, but I also don't know how else I wouldn't have seen him. I don't know if I would have considered him. I'm kind of surprised he wasn't even shown to me. And yeah, there's nothing left we even can do. Everything's locked. So we just advance one more time and a couple more signings taking place. And Craig Kimbrell goes to the Rays. He found a spot to land. A couple more signings trickling in here. Okay, some names here that are just a little bit on the older end. And we should be coming up on the end here. We should be seeing December 33rd. Any day, it's back. It returned to the game. The bug is still there. December 33rd, my favorite day in March. And ooh, they only gave me a 4-star offseason. And I can already see, look at what they did. Look at what they stuck me with. That's probably why it somehow managed to only be a 4-star offseason, because the CPU went out and signed Kyle Hendricks and re-signed John Brebbia, and that probably knocks down the quality of my overall signings, even though I feel like what I signed would have given me 5 stars. What? I shouldn't even allow myself to be frustrated by things like this in March to October. Like, it's been so long now, so many years. I just need to accept it. I can do nothing to change it. The CPU is going to take me on whatever ride it wants to take me on. But I think as soon as I hit advance here, we're going to be on our opening day screen of year 2. Yeah, we're taking on the Angels. It's 0-0 on opening day. We're projected at 91 wins. So I don't know. I'm sitting here. I've been recording for over 2 hours now. Didn't plan on it taking that long. So if this ended up being a long video for the off season, thanks for sticking around with me. And we should be ready to go here on season 2 and not even miss a beat. So one more time, guys, thanks for watching today. Thanks for sticking with me, and I will see you next time.